Sebastian Stein's Diary, July 19th, in the year of our Lord, 1839. With the advent of audio recording technology, it seems rather appropriate to record my diary in audio form instead of the usual handwritten accounts. It is currently 0600 hours, or thereabouts. I returned home as the sun was blessing London. The people here do not realize how lucky they are. The hours previous, the Order and I were on the hunt. It has been suspected for a week now that something darker had crept into the streets of our city. Such things cannot be tolerated. London must stand. We waited until the night had set in. For all their blusterings and bolsterings, the darker creatures seem consistently afraid of the daylight. We should really look into this further. Anyway, a string of murders had been hitting the area. Were this simply some madman, we would have nothing to do with it, leaving it to the authorities, of course. Something so pedestrian does not deserve our attention. Yet the sheer animalistic attacks seem to indicate something else. What? Ah, yes. Thank you, Jenny. Set the tea down just there, will you? Should the children wake up, keep them entertained for a while yet. Yes, I am not to be disturbed just yet. Thank you. Now, where was I? Yes. There had been several cases of vicious attacks. Not exclusively women, but there had seemed to be a preference there. Mostly women of the night, but some were just unfortunate. The investigation had revealed that these women had been on the streets and in plain sight one moment, and the next they had simply vanished. They would be found next morning in alleyways or impaled on street lamps. Poor things. Though it is believed that they were on nearby rooftops and simply fell. I sincerely hope they met a quick end. Their wounds, while fatal on their own, we had noticed that the hearts had been removed in all cases, and in fact with surgical precision. We had also noted that each victim had varying wounds. No victim was identical, save for the heart being removed. Wounds would include punctures on the neck, removal of skin, broken and exposed bones and other skeletal structural exposures, missing organs, and always missing the heart. Broken, if not missing, jaws, missing or exploded eyes, scalping, insertion of foreign organs into the victim's body. Dear God. Designation: Sanguium nocturnum. A vampire, in simple terms. While there are some that kill purely out of the necessity, and while we must hunt these creatures, I do understand them at the very least. This particular case, cruelty seemed to be enjoyed immensely. Perhaps a convert. The Order's records have indicated that only bestial and sired of the species act in such insidious ways. The Order had tracked a pattern of attacks and had deduced that the next attack would be around Vauxhall, more or less between Battersea and Kensington. We had prepared ourselves during the day, of course. We had all carried a bollocks pistol with a bayonet as a standard. In addition, over half of our number would carry crossbows. My hand, still recovering from the burning a few days previous, I was not able to carry such a weapon. Though I did carry my saber as well as my pistol, though that would be it. As the night descended on the streets of London, so too did we. Marcus and Phillips took 3 men apiece and took to the rooftops. Dylan, Holmes, and myself took 2 men to each of us, and we remained in the streets. Drunken men of the lower classes spilled out into the streets with the stench of beer and stagnant cider soon following behind them. I am somewhat ashamed to say, because of this and my lack of enthusiasm for the underclasses, I nearly missed it. A man stood before me in one moment. As he began to fall from his intoxicated legs, I turned my gaze, as is to not be socially obligated to help him up. It was in this moment, when I should have heard bones hitting pavement, that I simply heard nothing. My head snapped to see the spot empty, and so it began. "Belarus!" I called, and as the word left my mouth, the order closed in on me as if they were bloodhounds. Remington had given newly designed eyeglasses, and using them we were able to see tracks. Quite remarkable, really. We rushed to a nearby alley to find nothing but the single door frame missing the door. We approached silently, as our training had taught us. There was the crunch, crunch, crunch of bones and teeth. Holmes was the nearest to the door, and as such he produced a expertly crafted silver powder and iron flake spherical explosive device. He threw it into the room. Boom. The explosion was followed by the howl and screech of sanguine offshoot. It was a man in appearance, or most of one. Horns protruded from his skull, yet they could be concealed with a cloak. His talon-like nails could possibly have been hidden, or at least accepted with ignorance in polite society. Those teeth, though. Those ghastly, ghastly teeth. Those seemed more at home in something akin to an echimora, rather than a man-shaped beast we had confronted. Dylan was the first to shoot. He shot the eye of the beast and quickly drew his crossbow, as if this magnificent speed of reloading is something that he was just blessed with. Of course, he had practice for many, many years, but I digress. Firing the crossbow into the beast's chest was 2 shots that took no longer than 2 seconds. Holmes followed suit with an order to our underlings to open fire. They obeyed, and he produced an iron-coated whip. I assume he had developed it on his recent trip to India. I must inquire about this later. Quite a remarkable thing. The beast lunged for me, and that is when I opened fire. I took a sizable chunk of the creature's skull away. However, a tooth has embedded in my chest. No one noticed in the heat of battle, and not even I had noticed. I will have Jenny assist me removing it soon. It should not cause any issues, but it is uncomfortable, to say the least, especially as the adrenaline seems to be wearing off. As the beast fell to the floor, we took its head and heart, as is protocol. In addition, we burnt the remains, and right now the head and heart are being encased in a silver mold. They will be sent to the Vatican branch as soon as the silver has re-solidified. On a personal note, this is the third incident in London soil in as many months. This concerns me. I have encountered Ekimura, although be it only once before, and I have encountered converted Sanguian bastards before. Yet none seem to be like this. And certainly that stench in my clothes will no doubt need me to burning my clothes before this day is through. In my diaries I would end with a final thought. I suppose I should do the same here with this audio recording. I worry something is coming to London. Something bigger. I fear our order does not have the numbers sufficient, but we will stand vigilant. For our Queen, for our country, and for our species. Stars fall, fire rises, and we stand eternal.